what types of ongoing, on-demand support or mentorship would be sort of most beneficial for that training? So this is sort of outside the intensive or the regular training we've already discussed, but more towards the mastermind you talked about, that is ongoing, whether it is on demand or on a regular schedule. So this is types rather than schedule. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I really think that and it increases the engagement and it's one level up, I think, from training because if you're part of a mastermind, then you can discuss your current issues with people who are, in your same industry and knowledgeable. And then or I would act as a facilitator. We would provide some training within the mastermind but there's the opportunity to discuss things in more detail, dive deep on some specific problems, and then an opportunity that if I don't know the answers, to bring in somebody else from my, my database of experts, to kind of address a specific issue. And because you have that, I'm not saying that a mastermind is informal, but it's a little more informal than an actual training per se, in that there's some flexibility. You still want to have an agenda and keep things on track because, otherwise it gets off track and you want to keep it focused for people to get the most value. So I always
Hmm.
think an agenda is important, and try to stick to the agenda as much as possible, but it's informal from the standpoint that you're able to dive into some specific issues and kind of follow some of those rabbit holes that are important to you and get resolution on some nagging issues that you can't just asking questions in a more formal type of training. So I'm really kind of, a fan of masterminds or something along that same format. I know there's some hybrid types of things that get done out there. I kind of lump everything under mastermind just because that's kind of what I grew up with in the business is, back, going all the way back to Napoleon Hill and his mastermind concept. That's kind of how I look at it. And I've been involved in some masterminds that aren't really masterminds, but they can be valuable if you have peers involved that are near peers and have the same set of issues, and so you can help each other, facilitated by the person facilitating the mastermind,
Hmm.
um, and then you can really get it, deep dive on some of these issues, which makes it more valuable than some training, even answering questions. It's more of a deep dive, and I think
Hmm.
that's good for some people, not for everybody, and obviously there's some cost to maintaining that, and you want to give value for that, so not just getting together and yakking about things, but the facilitator really needs to keep it focused, let it go where it needs to go, but
Hmm.
bring it back on track if it needs to get back on track, stick to the agenda, respect people's time, but a little more free form than the actual training we might do either in person or online. And that can be really valuable to some people. And I think masterminds probably should have a specific life. Maybe you have an agenda for 12 months that you're involved in a mastermind. And if people want it to continue, then you can figure out a way to do that. But I think you should have an agenda set up for 12 months of meetings for a mastermind, and that might be enough time to address everybody's issues, and then maybe you switch it over to like an alumnus type of thing where you meet once a month or something, and at a little bit lower cost, where you can just kind of update each other, because really in a mastermind you actually, for a lot of times, you connect with people like you wouldn't in a training, and you're kind of interested in their issues, and hey, what happened to that problem you were trying to solve, and you want to know the conclusions or just kind of stay in touch. So
Hmm.
that's kind of, I haven't quite figured out that extension part, but I really think that a mastermind per se should have a specific time frame that it exists and can solve the bulk of people's problems, or at least get them on the right track, and then you can move on to the next group. It facilitating a mastermind takes some time.
Hmm.
You not only take the time that you're in the mastermind, but the bulk of your time as a facilitator really goes into the preparation. And that's, you want to have your act together when you get there. And so it gets at what you mentioned just earlier, is people being able to ask questions ahead of time. This stuff is coming up, and these are my questions. So you can actually pull in some information ahead of time and get some of those questions answered. And then there's going to be stuff that's just going to crop up, and you need to deal with that. But
Hmm.
that's where the near peer group can really help on that. They're going to provide, as a facilitator, I'm not going to have all the answers to some, or the experience. I'm not out there turning wrenches on water valves. These guys are. They're programming up the SCADA system and all that. Running the treatment system to remove iron from the water, and they're doing that every day. I'm not. So that's where the peers can really help each other. And boy, that it can be really powerful if it's done right. And the trick is doing it right. A lot of that is the preparation.
I
You spend
so
a bunch of
love
time
that.
preparing.
For me, to me, that's the ultimate solution to, in a sense, everything, because it's dynamic. As you said, you become invested in the people. It becomes relationships, and it can go wrong, or it can become less and less productive if there's either too much diversity, that is diversity where everybody has separate things and aren't really helping each other or can't help each other, then it may be. So I really like your idea of the near peer, but also just a lot of what people call masterminds. It's like, this isn't a mastermind. This is people hanging out, trying to sell each other stuff. And I've been in way too many of those. And where it's sort of like, what is my ROI and what is my contribution? And if it's low on either of those, I have somewhere else I can be doing something else I know I should be doing, because we all have a scarcity of time. So
Right.
I I so agree with that, the whole idea of group genius. So to me, the perfect product that I would like to develop is exactly that, a mastermind with a clear but ongoing agenda. It was like, we're here to solve these culture and leadership problems as they come up. We meet on a regular basis with a focus on, we're not there to help ourselves. Our job is to help everybody else. But as a result, and literally using that as a filtering mechanism for the mastermind itself, it was like, how do you feel about being part of a paid mastermind in which your job is not to help yourself, but to help everybody else? And anybody who says, well, why would I pay for that, is pretty much automatically disqualified, because they can't see beyond the narrow lens of the fact that, well, hold on, that means there's 5 or 10 or 20 or 50 other people whose job it is to help me. But I just don't really want people coming in specifically with the all too common self-serving agenda, rather saying, I'm here to serve and others are here to serve me, where everybody's taking care of each other. And just like you're talking about, not only do you tap into the group genius, but we don't know what we don't know, and we can't anticipate problems that only a psychic can, and psychics are fake, just in case anybody wasn't sure. You could go, well, look, I've had, all this experience and such, but this came up. I have no idea what to do. And that's where it's, especially because it's dynamic learning or dynamic peer support and learning, that you can't package into the cookie cutter course. So, it's right there. It needs to be done. Okay, so
Just one more thing too on that is, I think for for the most effective mastermind, you really need to have some way to vet the people that come into it, whether it's a
yes.
questionnaire, whether it's an
Hmm.
interview, to make sure that they're going to contribute. And you need to be a little hardcore on that. You can't just let anybody in. Even if they're willing to pay the fee, they need to bring value to the group and the experience to the group.
Hmm.
And so there has to be a vetting process for the most
Hmm.
effective mastermind, and you need to stick to that. Not just somebody whines at you to get in and they don't contribute, or you're getting vendors in there, like as you mentioned, trying to sell to the water system. That's not productive. So
You got to kick
so you
them
need
out.
to be, Yeah. You need to vet the people, and you can't be afraid to kick people out, like you say, and then just that's going to be your most effective, and you need to really pay attention to that. That's what's going to a big part of the key to success in a mastermind is getting the right
Yeah.
people.
To exactly your point there, that's what mine is. I haven't got the mastermind. It's incipient, right? You need members for a mastermind, and I haven't found any that I would accept. And the bottom line is, it's like, how would you feel about paying for something and your job is not to help yourself? If that's not okay with you, like I said, you're not big thinking enough to be part of the mastermind. Another question being, what are you bringing to this mastermind? It's like, literally, I have a disqualification interview or qualification interview to address exactly what you're saying. If it's like, well, what do you mean? I'm paying you, you're delivering goods to me. It was like, how would you feel if I let in a bunch of self-serving jerks, or I let in a bunch of people who are as entitled as you are? I might or might not actually say that to them, that everybody was entitled and thinking everybody owed them something, rather than saying, look, let's help each other and make this really amazing. Just the difference. It's a culture engineering question, really, that if you don't do what both you and I think is critical, if you don't disqualify the ones that shouldn't be there, they will ruin the mastermind. They can easily destroy it. The ratio of people, or the ratio, Roy Baumeister wrote a book called The Power of Bad. And it turns out that the ratio is about 5 or 6 to 1. So that means any jerk, or let me use, what's the scientific term, asshole, who's in your group, who is there to do nothing but compromise. And psychological safety, saying you're wrong and here's why, is desirable. But if they're doing it in a way that is adverse, for every one person like that, you're going to have 5 more or less perfect people, and none of us are. So for every jerk who might actually bring real value but challenges a lot of people, you're going to need 7 to 10 other people to neutralize that negativity or get them out of there right away. Now, all sunshiny is bad too, but you literally, if somebody's going to be basically adversarial with everybody, kick them out, because they'll destroy your group, and there will be nothing you can do about it, shy of having the balls to do what you said. Be willing to kick them out and stick to your principles, saying this has to be of value to everybody. How would you feel if everybody else did what you're asking me to do for you? It's just going to be a group of selfish jerks. It's going to be what I call vulture culture. I want to create an emo culture where everybody's swimming in the same direction. So we have not much time left. I'm almost have to do my next interview.